So the very beginning of my career, I would say, was I was singing in my mom's backyard, and she's a graphic designer. So she was doing these decals on the side of the taxi cab driver, the only taxi cab driver in Millbrook. So I grew up in a town of like under 1,000 people, and taxi cab driver was there, and he came up to me, and I was singing in the backyard, and he was crying. He was like, your voice is so beautiful. And I was like, I was kind of freaked out because, you know, I was 8 and like, and he's like, can I book you a gig? Can I help you? And I was like, yeah, cool. So years later, I found out that he had just gone through a divorce, and he said that he hadn't cried, and that he was listening to me sing in the backyard, like way in the back by my dad's garden, and it made him cry. And so he was like, yeah, he was my first manager, and he booked me my first gig when I was 8 years old at the Legion downtown in Millbrook. And so I played my first gig. Was taking piano lessons at the time, and I think I'd had like 5 or 6 lessons, and I just hired my piano player, my teacher, to play. And I sang just the oldies that I loved, because I used to ride around, you know, singing oldies with my dad. It was like Buddy Holly, Linda Ronstadt, like, and I did a show. I did 4 songs or something at the Legion. There was like 11 people, 4 of which were my family, and the rest were like war vets. And that's where it started for me, where I was just like, I got on stage and I started singing, because I was singing all the time anyways. But that, you know, looking back, that I was able to like connect with someone that deeply. There was something I couldn't quite understand. You know, I was 8 and I was like, I didn't know, but it made me feel something I hadn't felt before. And it was like really plugged in emotionally. And that was the beginning of my career. That was like my first gig. And I was hooked too. Like I was like, oh, I want to do this all the time. So I started playing motor hotels and Legions and stuff like that. I would do like, my second gig was like the Halloween Howl at the Miss Diana Motor Hotel. You know, it was like pretty like edgy too, right? Like I was playing in these motor hotels and Legions, and like, and I think also that, you know, that kind of led me to what I really love about being on tour. It's like, I loved playing like dive bars and edgy places and stuff in it, because I felt like I could connect to those people a lot deeper, because they've been through shit, you know, like so much. And like their ability to connect with music was pretty deep. So yeah, that was the beginning. But the beginning of my like career, like touring and stuff like that. So I started busking. I was busking all the time. I did busking in front of the liquor stores and convenience stores and stuff. And then I started in high school. I was playing open stages, coffee houses. Like I just played as much as possible. And I was terrible when I started playing guitar. The songs that I was writing, like, were just brutal, like really, really bad. Like I wrote bad. I think it's only in the last like 10 years I've kind of started writing good songs. It took me about 30 to get there, you know. But started playing my own shows when I was like 15 with the guitar, and writing music for plays in high school. And that's where I met my second manager. He saw me at the Sears Drama Festival, and he's like, do you want to record a record? And I was like, I don't have any money. Like that was my first thing. He was like, you don't need any, it's okay. So I recorded a tape. I did a cassette tape when I was 15, and then when I was to make enough money to do a CD when I was 16, and then I released it when I was 17. And then my next manager, I had like 3 managers before I was 18. My next manager was like a roommate who just wanted to help. So it's like really about finding people that just believe in you, you know, which I was really, really lucky to. And started playing folk festivals. Really, a lot of it was like just getting myself out there as much as possible and learning, because I had to, you know, and I was not very good. Like my voice has always been really great. Like that's always been a thing. But as an artist, it's like I really had to just get out there and make mistakes and like be on tour and open for people. It was like I traveled just with me and my acoustic guitar until I was, you know, in my mid-20s. So I did that. And then my manager that I have now heard me on the radio on CBC. And she got in touch with, it was like Avril Benoit, Here and Now or something, and got in touch with her and had a meeting with her in Toronto and just really clicked. And so, and then I started touring with, it was really like people opening up their tours to me. Like Hawksley Workman took me on tour when I was just turned 19, and I started just watching him every night side stage. And he's one of the most brilliant performers, right? Like he's so plugged in, and I learned a lot from him, you know, like up until then, like it was really finding people and I guess like copying them until I found myself inside of what I liked about them. And I learned pretty much everything I know about performing from Hawksley when we toured together. We toured across Europe and all across Canada, and I just started getting better, you know, and starting being able to talk to an audience like they're, you know, friends and people that have their own lives. I kind of started seeing from outside of myself, and that's where it started. I think that some of the most important milestones have been the hardest times that I've been through as an artist. Was the really, really tough stuff, was the being the only woman on tour and having to take care of myself and having to make sure that I realized that the more I took care of myself, the better my career would be. And it took me up to like 2.5 years ago to learn that, really, where it was like, you know, the things that I put in my body were what my body turned into, what my mind turned into. Because, you know, I was in so many really difficult situations. Like I remember I went on tour when I was 19, and I was just about to turn 20, and it was my first overseas. I went to Australia, and I was put on a plane by myself with one guitar to Australia, to open up for Steve Earle on tour. And I got there and I completely fell apart, like completely. I was alone. I didn't have a cell phone. Like, you know, I was by myself, and then I had to book the cheapest hotels. Like the hotel smelled like pee and like beer, and like I got there and I started having panic attacks, and I was basically just like drinking to get through. And I remember after the first show, like I walked into the show with my guitar, and like Steve Earle's on stage doing like sound check, and I'm like, what am I doing here? Like, who am I? Like, what's happening? I was so overwhelmed. And afterwards he took me out. He was like, hey, let's go for a coffee or whatever. And we went for coffee because he could see I was like a deer in the headlights, just like, what? And I ordered like a double rye and ginger in a pint glass. And he sat there and he was like, and I was just chain smoking. He was like, baby, you got to stop drinking. You know, what you put into yourself is, you know, he basically said what I put into myself is what I turn into. And he's like, and I know, believe me, I know, but you gotta watch yourself. You know, you got a lot going on in your life, and you're talented, and, you know, you got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of yourself. And I was at that point, I was like, I'm fine. Like, oh, I don't know. He doesn't really know what he's talking about, you know? But, like almost 20 years later, 19 years later, I actually called him a few weeks ago and I was like, hey, because he's got this new record. His son just passed away, right? And we've kept in touch a little bit here and there. But my new song is called "Better Now," and it's about choosing to not drink alcohol anymore, and also about just learning how to take care of myself. You know, which can take a really long time. But I kind of told him what the song was about, and I was like, "Would you sing it with me?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'll sing it with you." So it's this full circle where it was like, yeah, like, you know, it's taken me a really long time, but all of the hard times, like I remember walking in my hotel room and just like literally falling and passing out onto the floor from anxiety because I was so overwhelmed. And going through all of that stuff that I went through made it so that I can relate to people on this whole other level now. And I feel like the biggest thing in my career that was formative for me was all of the tough times that I went through. And they just transformed me, you know, into who I am, where I can see like we're all struggling in our own ways and we don't know where other people are coming from. But we all have to go through it. You know, we all have to go through it to be who we are. And that's really where my music has led me now, where it's like everything I write about, I know is almost like a mantra. It's something that I'm repeating over and over again. And it's like, you know, now I'm like, I don't really write songs, I write spells. You know, this is like what you know, what I'm creating constantly. If you're going to sing something over and over again, make sure you're ready to live it, you know, because you're going to. Yeah, so there is a lot of surprises in this business, for sure. And I think the biggest surprise is that it's not about you. It's not about you. You know, everybody's eyes that are on you, they're coming from where they're coming from. And they are relating to you through their own experience of life and their own stories. And so if you are looking out to try and get someone's attention, that's not really going to happen unless you're really going deep into your own self about your own story. Because the only way for someone to relate to you and to feel like, you know, you're talking to them is if you're really talking about yourself and the real honest things that you're going through, that you've been through, in a way that is like really transparent, you know? That was the biggest thing that I've learned. It's like, it's not about me. It's like, it's about connecting, you know, to real stories and real emotions. And it's about community more than just like, you know, being a superstar, because that doesn't mean anything. I feel like I think both are possible. Like, if you want to be a lone wolf, then be ready to be lonely. Be ready to be by yourself. Be ready for it to be hard. And it doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. Like, it's whatever you make it. I was that way for a long time, and you know, it did serve me. But it was a harder path. I think if you want to take the sweeter road, the sweeter path. It's like if you open yourself up to community, you can learn so much. And collaborations, it's like, why not make your family bigger, you know? But only if you're willing to be honest with yourself and to be really there. Like if you're talking through an idea of who you are to somebody else, they're going to know that it's fake. Something inside of them is going to know. So collaborations can be amazing if they're done from a real authentic place. And I mean, having a bigger musical family, like, you know, it's amazing because you have this gigantic community, and especially musicians, it's like this art, it travels around the whole entire world, you know? I don't know if you should ever make the I guess the Western model of sacrifice ever. I don't know if you should sacrifice, you know, for me, I feel like following my gut is so important. And if you know something's wrong, for me, how I define sacrifice is almost like I'll give up this to get this. And it's like, for me, it's like this can lead to this. You don't necessarily, you shouldn't ever give up something that you know in your gut is true and is right, but always be willing to be wrong. Always be willing to be wrong. If someone's telling something to you that you in your head get really defensive about, or like, oh, it's always take a step, take a breath, take a few days before you answer right away. Because maybe if you take a step and you take a breath and you take a few days and something that someone's asking you to do, it challenges you. Maybe it's a good thing. Doing things that you're scared of are really good things, you know, unless in your gut, you know, it doesn't align with your values of like who you are as a human being. And this is what I believe to be true. But if it's something that feels like I'm going to be nervous, I'm going to screw up, I don't know what I'm going to say, like those are the parts that I found have led me to the biggest collaborations and the biggest tours and stuff. Like I was clinically depressed, couldn't get out of bed for 3 months, like 12 years ago. And I had gained like 80 pounds from eating unhealthily. Like I've gained 80 pounds now and I feel great. Like but I was eating like crap, and you know, I was really, really depressed and I was terrified. And my manager was like, I booked you a tour with Melissa Etheridge. And I was in bed, like hot sweats, cold sweats, like only thing I could do was watch Netflix for months, 3 months. And I was like, I don't think I can do that. Like what? And then after a few days, I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. And then that gave me a goal, that gave me something to work towards. And I was like, okay, this is like, I'm just going to do it. And I did it. And I got on the road and I was touring with Melissa Etheridge and we did a duet together. And she's become one of my best friends, you know, one of my closest people. And she's family now. And it's like, if I were to have said no because I was scared and because I didn't think I was good enough, like my life would have not been the way that it is. I think right now it's like one of the hardest times, but also one of the most progressive times when it comes to what is possible for young artists, because it's really at their fingertips if they have access to, you know, social media and different things like that. I feel like the younger generation, I feel like they're going to blow our minds, you know, I really do, because there's endless possibilities and there's something really magic about this new generation of kids, because we have they have access to literally, if they can dream it, it can happen, you know, when it comes to music. And I feel like what they need to do, well, I don't know what they need to do, but like in my mind would be like create what create without the without feeling like other people have to approve of it, you know. Yeah, I feel like they need to create like it's whatever they want to create is the good thing that is out there. And that's where we're hearing this like these new sounds that are coming out and stuff. It's because it's not, you don't necessarily need like a big label or like a big, you know, corporation behind you to make that. That almost kind of squashes it. I feel like there's so much magic. I feel like just following and trusting themselves, realizing that they trust themselves, then everything that comes from that is going to be beautiful, you know? I think my advice for the next generation really is that the only thing you need to do is figure out how to trust yourself. I feel like that's the only thing you need to do. And all of your arrows should be pointing to that. You know, it's like trust yourself and follow your own gut, follow your own instincts, because nobody knows better for you than you ever. You know, there may be challenges and people that stretch you and make you uncomfortable, and that can be good. But follow your values and trust yourself, because you're the only person that's going to be with you forever. You know, you got to do something that you're proud of and that you trust.